Well, I'm giving you an opportunity to go face-to-face, head-to-head with your guy, Joel Embiid, as we start this Step Into My Office segment. We're going to bring in some folks who might need a conversation with the former NFL GM Michael Lombardi. But Joel Embiid goes 5 for 18 from the floor yesterday for a postseason in general where we saw his point production drop from a league-high 33.1 points per game in the regular season to 23.7 in the playoffs. So if Joel Embiid walks into your office, Michael, what does he need to hear? What does he need to do to reach his true potential? And is he capable of being the guy that brings the 76ers postseason success in the future?
Well, I think the number one thing is he's got to be able to handle Colonel Nathan R. Jessup. You got to handle the truth, right? And you really are nothing but a talented social media star. That's what you are. You've been able to create a social media through your incredible God-gift talents. But at the end of the day, you talk about your son, you talk about wanting to set the example for him, then, stop talking about it and do it. At some point, go get a body fat test. At some point, go get yourself in shape. At some point, take the game seriously because you don't do any of that stuff. You don't care. All you care about is a personal award, which is wonderful. You could put that up on your trophy. But, Bill Russell, I think, won 10 titles. These other great players in this league have won more titles, and nobody's going to remember your MVP. They're only going to remember you when you failed in the fourth quarter. They're going to remember you as a guy that couldn't close. So all this short-term social media status that you have and your ability to manipulate the media because of your talent is all going to fall short. At some point, you've got to ask yourself one fundamental question. How bad do you want to be a great player? So far, based on my experiences watching you, that's not very much. You just go by your talent. And talent doesn't get you anywhere. Talent gets you the fraud that you've become. You become a media darling because of your talent, but you're never going to win anything. And if that's okay, keep going.
Won the MVP, as you referenced, in 3 straight top 2 MVP finishes, yet no trips to the conference finals to his name. Moving along, on Friday, the Cleveland Browns acquired pass rusher Zadarius Smith from the Minnesota Vikings to play opposite Myles Garrett. The duo make up 2 of just 5 players to have 10-plus sacks in 3 of the last 4 years. They also went out and add Dalvin Tomlinson in free agency to bolster that side of the ball. So in steps to Michael Lombardi's office, Jim Schwartz, the new defensive coordinator out there in Cleveland. What would you encourage Schwartz to do to maximize the potential of all the Browns' defensive talent?
Well, I would think, Jim, it's good to have you back in the Berea. You were here once before. You got your career started in this office. It looks a lot different now than when you left. But my point to you would be help Kevin Stefanski become a better head coach. Help him manage games differently. Become really diligent in making him understand that it's not wise to go for it on your own 25 in the first quarter to gain 3 more downs. If you can do that, you're going to make the Browns a better team. I know you're going to make the Browns a better team defensively. You're not going to make mental mistakes. You're not going to melt down and give up 14 points in the last 2 minutes of a game like you did against the Jets. You're going to be able to have more concise run fits. But the most important thing I think, Jim, you can bring to the Cleveland Browns this season is your ability to understand games and anticipate situational football, something the Browns did not do very well. Because everything in Cleveland's there for the taking. Cleveland has a chance to be one of those teams that if you improve defensively and Stefanski improves as a head coach in his decision-making, you can win. Now, Watson's got to play a lot better, but I got to believe Watson's career up until this point wasn't a fraud. I think he can play better, but that's going to take it. But to me, defensively, with where you are and your style, your defense will be really good, but you got to have to help Stefanski become a better head coach.
Season win total 9.5. The over is plus 130. When you say that they are a team that can win if they put it all together, does that mean double digits?
I think so, Stormy. I really do. Look, they have one of the better players before last year at quarterback. Now, we have a bad taste in our mouth based on his off-the-field actions and his play last season, which was horrendous, and both were horrendous. But there's a lot to play for, and he's going to have to he's going to have to renew his reputation, he's going to have to renew his talent, because right now what we saw of him was not very good. And a lot of that is because he probably hasn't played. So instead of making excuses, let's see what he can do. But they have the talent to do it. They can run the ball. Nick Chubb's an elite player. Their offensive line is very good. And the scheme fits Watson perfectly once he understands it. And defensively, if they get ahead with Garrett and now Zadarius Smith rushing off the corner, they should be a much more effective team. And Schwartz will not tolerate them making mistakes. He will hold the defense accountable.
Yeah, we'll see what that defensive talent can do. And if, to your point, Deshaun Watson, who had a long layoff before finally starting to get acclimated with that offense, if he can put things together with a full training camp and program ahead of this coming season. The Minnesota Vikings, I know, are a team you think could take a step back this year. Got very, very lucky in a number of late game instances a year ago. And now reports have indicated that they're looking to move on from their Pro Bowl running back in Dalvin Cook. Jeremy Fowler saying Minnesota wants him to go to a place where he can play and be happy, whether that's via trade or an eventual release. So if you have Dalvin Cook in your office and you're advising him, what are you telling him? Are there any organizations specifically he should push to be traded for or target? What's the convo?
I think the conversation's real simple, Dalvin. You know, you go to a team that's going to feature you as a weapon, not necessarily a back. You know, because you have such great skill in the passing game, and you can make a difference in some teams' passing game. That if you went to a team that really understood how to utilize your skill, it could be unbelievable, and you'll help that team win. You should be on a winning team, and you should go to a team that has somebody else to kind of take some of the pressure off you, keep you fresh for the fourth quarter, and give you that weapon dynamic. I mean, if you went to Dallas to go along with Tony Pollard, that would be incredible. Now, I don't know if they could afford you, but that would be incredible. And I think, to me, that's what you have to do. You've got to go somewhere that understands how to get the back into the game without running just draw screens or flat routes. Really utilize your skill as a receiver, you know, and like San Francisco does with McCaffrey. I think that's going to be the best place. And I would stay in the NFC, because if you go to a team like Washington and they really understand what you bring to the table, you can make them a legitimate playoff team. You would be the best back on their team, and you would make them a lot better. But that's what I would do. I would stay in the NFC, and I would go to one of those teams. Now, Seattle doesn't need. They just drafted another running back. They've already have Kenneth Walker on the team. But that would be my focus.
That was going to be my follow-up, though, because you mentioned the Commanders. Like, Dallas, yeah, that makes sense. They can win. But you believe that the Commanders, I know you think they're better than their win total, but you think they could really, really win with a piece like him.
You know, we had Doc Walker on this weekend, and you know, we had this conversation, and he disagreed with me about, I don't think their running backs are elite. I think they have good backs. Bijan Robinson and the kid from Memphis, Gibson, is good play. They average 3.9 a carry. The offensive line isn't good, but backs make the line better. Dalvin Cook, you put Dalvin Cook on that team. When J.D. McKissick was going good for Washington, they were a little bit better of an offense, but he got hurt on them. And that kind of took some things away from him. Now, can Bieniemy utilize Cook? I think he could. And it would certainly help Sam Howell. I would be all in on him if I were Washington. I think that's the one area they could really improve their team, because they've got great skill. But I think most importantly, what fans don't understand is the running back makes the spread. The running back makes the spread. Madison's a good player for Minnesota. It'll be a little bit of a lesser than Cook. But the reason they're moving on from Cook is because they think Madison can give them what Cook gives them, and then they can pick up cap room.
New Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon told reporters on Friday that the mayor of Munchkinland, that Kyler Murray, whoa, got a frog in my throat, quote, he is a long way away from recovering from his ACL tear, but added, we don't play for a long time, so I feel good where he's at. The Cardinals' preseason expectations, to put it mildly, are very low, win total of 4.5. They're not favored in a single game. If you are talking to Gannon, how are you advising him as it pertains to Kyler Murray? Are you wanting to slow play it, or as soon as he's healthy enough to get back, do you say, okay, it's Kyler's team, let's go?
Well, look, I think you've got to – this is a new program, and if you're going to be part of the program, we're going to need you out there. But we're not going to put you out there. Even if you're cleared to play, that's great. But if you're just out there, that's not what we want. You've got to be able to function and be the player that you once were. And I got to make that decision. The doctors are going to clear you at some point, but I've got to see you move around. And once we see that, we're going to put you back out there, because we need you on this team. We need you to be the leader. We need you to change who you are, because we're changing this program. And if you can't do that and we don't win, we're liable to draft another quarterback. So it's really important, and I would not let a year pass. I think we need to be able to see how you've come back from this and how anxious you are to want to keep playing.
Yeah, we saw some of those early projections for next year's draft, and some folks have the Cardinals getting to pick one, too. Right now, that quarterback room with Kyler Murray injured, Colt McCoy, 5th-round pick out of Houston, Clayton Tune, David Blau, and Jeff Driscoll.
I know. Oh, and they drafted they drafted Tune.
Yeah.
They got
Clayton
Driscoll,
Tune.
and then they got Dave. Oh, they mentioned they had 5 of them on the team.
Yep. Does not look great. Yeah, the Cardinals, it's going to be an uphill battle for them. And I know that it's the NFC West has taken a little bit of a step back at the bottom of the division with the Rams in Arizona, but still have to play 2 games against the 49ers and 2 games against a good Seattle team every year. It's not looking great.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.